So welcome back to Repatstories. Subscribe to the channel, please. A lot of you are watching and not subscribing to the channel, so please subscribe right now. Okay, so today we're going to be talking to visual artist and creative director Joshua Solas, and I'm super excited to talk to him. He's doing impressive work here in Jamaica and making a difference on the cultural scene. So, hi Joshua.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Thank you for your time.
Of course, no problem.
Alright, so the first thing I want to ask you is your last name. I'm Solas. What's the origin of that?
So my great-grandfather is actually from Cuba and came to Jamaica as smuggled his way here. And at least that's the story I got. So I'm actually looking into that. I want to do some investigation over the next couple of years. Just like my family lineage and that kind of thing. But to my knowledge, my family is the only Solas family in the country. So.
Neat. I was curious about the last name itself. I figured it was either Cuban or maybe Portuguese, like Spanish or Portuguese.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So first of all, as a reminder, our interview takes like a form of like home and then away and then home again. And so I want to talk to you about your time in Jamaica, like growing up. What was that like for you?
Yeah. So I was born in Kingston. Grew up in Bull Bay, St. Andrew. I spent I was there until about 9, moved to Stony Hill, then to New Kingston, and back to Bull Bay. By the time I started high school, so I went to St. Jude's Prep on American Drive, and then I went to St. George's College after that. Went all the way up to sixth form. And it was an interesting time.
It was a good. Okay, yeah. So were you an only child?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
An only child. My parents aren't together.
Okay.
My dad lives in Canada. He's lived elsewhere. He's lived in the Emirates. So he was in Abu Dhabi for a couple of years. He has a daughter as well, so I have a sister. But yeah, we all grew up together. So.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Fair. And so, growing up in Jamaica, was it always like? Did you always like it here, or did you feel like you wanted to be somewhere else?
I felt like I was curious about elsewhere. I feel, when you live somewhere, you might feel like you want to go elsewhere for whatever reason. I did have an appetite for travel just in general. I didn't know what living elsewhere would look like. I felt like maybe starting in the US might be a good idea. With being brought up on North American television, it's easy to get the grass is greener impression. So I'm not going to ignore that, but I do. I didn't really think about living elsewhere until it was time to think about college. Really, I genuinely think about it until it was time to think about college.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, so we'll talk about college, but before that, what's your favorite? You talked about North American television. Were you a cartoon person or like a show person?
Definitely both.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was if any other cartoons, I was definitely on Nickelodeon more often than the rest of them. And then that turned into Discovery Channel and Animal Planet and whatever else could, I guess, grab my interest. But those are the main things.
Yeah, I asked because I'm curious, because you're an artist and we all have influences. So yeah. I was curious about that. Alright, cool. So you said, alright, so it's time to think about college. So you're coming through George's, you're doing sixth form. And in Jamaica, sixth form is grades 12 and 13 in our system, where we do the equivalent in the UK of like A levels or O levels before we go to college. So you're thinking about college now, and you're like, well, maybe I could leave. At that point, you're interested in art. Was like the local art college Edna Manley an option, or did you always like just decide, okay, I'm going abroad?
Yeah, well, as I said, like I kind of thought about college as an excuse to live elsewhere. So my sights on colleges here wasn't as heavy as they were to elsewhere. I did consider Edno. I applied to, well, actually got into UA for UA and UTech for computer science. Funny enough, and that was just kind of to check our box more than to actually go and do it.
Right.
I got into UA, the UA Edno art program, which is more like a general studies thing, and then I and I applied to 3 schools abroad and got into them too. So it was just kind of a decision of what I really wanted to do and what was the most economically feasible thing to do where that was concerned. Yeah.
Okay. So thanks for sharing that. I didn't know the computer science thing is throwing me because I could see how it could go there, but also it's and computer science, what they do is art in its own way, but I see how like it's still very technical and it's a different so it could have been a different Joshua.
No, for sure. Well, I have to thank my mom because she's in project management in IT and finance. So like my interest in technology started from when I was taught I was using PowerPoint to make things.
That's awesome.
And I would say my appetite for travel comes from my dad because the meet environment was cool.
That's awesome. Was that something growing up? Even though in adulthood?
So I haven't been traveling as much sake of him as an adult. But definitely I would say like, I visited him when he was in Ireland, I visited him when he was in Abu Dhabi as well. And obviously in Canada as well. But,
That's awesome. So we'll come back to that because I feel like I want to know a little bit more about those experiences. This is kind of a travel show, so we kind of talk about that. But let's talk about college. So you got into 3 colleges abroad and you said, okay, economics, of course, it's expensive for an international student. You have a different tuition rate and all of that. But was it hard to choose the school you chose, which was in Grand Rapids, Michigan? Like, was it a no-brainer or what were the considerations?
Just in general, even just a direction, we went to Versan, as probably most people would have.
Wait, let me pause. So Versan is a college prep organization here. Miss Sandra Bramwell, she's incredible and she, I think, does a good job of meeting students where they are and looking at their interests and giving students. So if you're a sports student looking for scholarships, she'll find the schools for you. If you're an art student, she'll find great schools for you and helping to prepare students, as well as offering courses for SAT prep, GRE prep and all of that. So Miss Bramwell, wherever you are, thank you for all you've done for all your students. Okay, so you were saying you went to Versan and...
Yeah, she just kind of gave me a short list of schools to consider. And then by the time we got down to it, I only really, you go into art school as an international student, like what you do with SATs. So like I only applied to schools that you didn't need to do SATs for.
Cheat code.
I mean, yeah.
Because that's a pain, the preparation, and it's a lot.
I just did CSEC and CAPE, like when am I doing another set of exams I don't need to do.
Right.
So I kind of picked, we narrowed down to schools that I didn't have to do SATs for. They have this thing called National Portfolio Day where colleges tour around the states to just kind of get the word out about their schools, do portfolio reviews on the spot. Sometimes people get scholarships right then and there, or they have a follow-up and get opportunities elsewhere, that kind of thing. So my mom and I went to the one in Miami, or not Miami, Sarasota at Ringling. That's where I met representatives from a couple schools. And by the time coming home, we narrowed down some, visited 2 of them. One in Ohio, one in Michigan. The one that I ended up going to in Michigan, yeah. And I'm getting into Kendall called it writing design, Columbus called it writing design, and Parsons in New York. And yeah, it just, and then putting the three side by side, Kendall seemed to make the most sense.
That's awesome. What's your mom's name? What's her first
Grace.
name? Miss Grace, big up you because you carry Joshua around like. I mean, America is big. We're from a small island, and a lot of Jamaicans travel, but still coming from Florida and going to Ohio and Michigan. Amazing just to get your son where he needs to be. So big up you wherever you are. All right. So so you made a choice, and you're about to go to art school. You're leaving Jamaica for the first time for a long time. What are your preparations like?
Food.
Food.
Yeah, bring back food.
So real.
Yeah. My school didn't really have a campus. It was just kind of in the middle of the city. So the housing situation was kind of interesting. There was a building that had shared housing for the various schools in the area. So it's just like it's focused on housing like college students. So essentially it wasn't really more of a dormitory than it was like an actual apartment or like kind of an introduction to apartment life. So the general, the typical college stuff we had to do, get prepared for that or like living. So, obviously we don't have a meal program or anything like that.
Right.
So like we're finding out our meals.
Could you cook before you left? Were you?
Had to figure it out.
Yeah.
I was.
That's real.
I was messing around in the kitchen, but I wasn't making.
No, that's real. My brother, before he left, it was. I remember him YouTubing how to make rice because he just wasn't sausage and plantain. That was the max of his expertise. So that's real. As a young man, right? I mean, not to say a lot of young men don't have that knowledge, but it's different for you sometimes. So so you're figuring it out. Did you have a roommate or was it just you?
That's roommates.
Okay.
That's roommates starting out. Thankfully, separate rooms and shared living space with great people. Tyler, Anthony, David.
Were they all American?
Yeah, they're all American.
White?
2 white, one black.
Okay, cool. No, I'm just curious because it's culturally different, right?
No, for sure.
And even the way you approach living space, the way you approach food, the way you approach, what's important to you. So yeah.
Yeah, there's 1 or 2 times where things never align, but I'd only put it that way that things just never align.
Yeah.
But never anything that was like a big deal, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean.
What did you learn from them? Like, is there anything you learned from those 3 roommates at that time?
Yeah, I mean that was like I guess one of my first experiences in a domestic setting with people that that I live far removed from. So that kind of cohabitation thing was kind of interesting. I mean, I went to like camp before, and I'd done like conferences where we had to like other conferences where meeting people from all over the world, that kind of thing. But it's the first time over a year living with quote unquote strangers who became friends. So that was interesting. Culturally, I learned things that were different. David is from Detroit. Anthony's from Shipshawana, Indiana. He grew up around Amish people. He's English himself, but he grew up around Amish people. And Tyler was also from Michigan as well, near Flint.
Cool.
So, just like a very interesting mix of people.
Yeah, that's awesome. And remind us, this was in what year did you start?
I started in 2014.
2014, cool. Okay, awesome. So, you're in your art program, and I guess as a Jamaican being in Grand Rapids, Michigan, like what were some things that you really had to adjust to?
Demographic was interesting.
Okay.
Interesting to navigate. It was a majority white
right.
state and city. But what's interesting is that my day-to-day looks a lot different from most people, just because like I'm in a liberal space. I'm in an art college. In the more liberal city of its general vicinity, you know, it's a city that's like surrounded by farmland.
Got you.
You know what I mean? So, you know, there's a heavy conservative influence, but you know, in certain aspects, things are a bit flexible that way. Well, yeah, I mean, I've never lived in America before this, so it was just generally just interesting to navigate. Being the only Jamaican on campus.
Only Jamaican?
Only Jamaican on campus, and only, what's it called there? Historically
Black.
Caribbean.
Oh, Caribbean person.
Only historically Caribbean person. It's like, you know, Puerto Ricans there as well.
Stop it. So you didn't have any African? Didn't you have any African people?
By the end, yes.
Okay, but when you started, no.
When I started, it was just me, and majority of the international students were Asian.
Right.
So they were actually my first friends. Like, that I got acquainted with. I met them before I met my roommates.
Okay. Like orientation, stuff like that.
Yeah, we have an international student orientation. But then it's funny because like half the time it's more tailored for people coming from Asia.
Asia, because there's so many of them.
Yeah, and then there's me.
That can be really hard.
Yeah, it was interesting. But it's cool. It's cool. Everybody was super warm and welcoming. And I adjusted pretty quickly. Just from being in Western Hemisphere, I think it's not as difficult as it would be for somebody who's coming from across the pond. You know? Right.
So I'm gonna probe a little bit more, right? Because you stand out, right? So obviously you are the only black person in that space at the time. Well, maybe not. No, for international students, not only black, but maybe for international students, right? And you're super tall, so you stand out. Did you have locks at the time?
No.
You didn't have locks at the time, but you stand out, right? Did you? And you seem to be a little bit reserved. Did you ever have like, were you ever super conscious or anything, or super shy about talking to people or anything like that? Like, was it hard in that sense? Like, clearly you made friends, but did you ever feel concerned about that or anything like that in that space?
I don't think I did. I think my general demeanor is pretty like quiet, but like people said if they don't know me that they said I'm quiet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I mean I got along pretty well with most people, and there's like maybe a handful of instances where people energy is different from me, and it's not much to say about it.
Okay, sounds good.
But yeah, I mean I had a good time. I didn't have too much time. I didn't have too much difficulty adjusting or anything. If anything, I would say that I had a great experience. Overall.
That's awesome. Okay, and so I guess in that time, when you were in college abroad, were you coming home regularly?
Yeah, I was here summers and Christmas. I didn't come one summer because I was trying to just wrap up my final year a bit easier. So I took a few courses over the summer just to kind of be ahead. And then my final year, when I graduated and went to and did OPT, that's when I spent more than a year in the States, not going back home. That would have been the first time.
Got you. Okay. All right. So, wrapping up your time in Michigan, I guess as a last thing, like an observation, right? What was the adjustment for winters like? Because Michigan is a place where it is business as usual when snow is happening. Like, was that a big adjustment? Did you kind of just bundle up and just keep it pushing?
I was very sad in January, February time. The winter blues is real.
It's real.
I mean, we have to keep it pushing. I mean, I would definitely say that my general productivity did take a dip during that time. especially at the beginning or like the first winter. It wouldn't have been the first time I'd experienced a winter, but the first time living in it. So, it's kind of adjusting to that was interesting. I'm, as most Jamaicans, rain off and all did up in so where's the snow off? Like,
right.
What you mean I have to go outside?
Right.
You mean like we can't do this from inside? But it was fine.
Okay. Alright, cool. So you finished up, that would be in what, 2018, 2019? 2018, awesome. Alright, so now you're thinking about what you want to do. So you mentioned a little bit that we have this thing when you're an international student in the US, after you finish your degree program, you have 1 year or up to 3 if you're in a STEM degree to study and get experience in your field. So in this time, you decided to move to Los Angeles, is that right? What prompted that decision?
Seemed to make the most sense. All the options. I was looking at LA, New York, Toronto, and yeah, I mean, LA seemed to have an energy that I wanted to tap into. I liked the kinds of work that I was seeing coming out of LA. This was a time where, I went to school for illustration and minored in graphic design, so it was very functional, very economically sound for the most part, kind of professions to kind of pursue. But really and truly I have more interest in fine art because I feel like it's just a bit more of a free space to exist in and potentially earn. So, when I was there, I actually worked in the galleries there. So I applied to a few places, didn't think it was a few places, but worked at the Marcion Art Foundation. It was not, but that is not no longer with us for various reasons. And the Broad Museum downtown. So I was cumulatively with the both places. I was there for a year. That was cool.
Yeah. So what kind of work did you do there?
I was the official title is a visiting service associate, visiting services associate, which is basically a gallery attendant. So it's the guy wearing black, chances are telling you not to touch things, or step back, or taking pictures for you, and that kind of thing. Or like if you have any questions about the artwork and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where we have to do courses to make sure we're competent enough to give people information about the works.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which was awesome because I get paid to learn about contemporary art and share that with people on a regular basis. It was a good time.
Yeah. What were some themes in the art that really, or some art pieces or specific artists that were being shown at that time that you really resonated with, and why? Can you remember any?
It was a pretty broad spectrum. The Marcion Art Foundation was a private collection of the Marciano brothers. They're the ones that own Guess Jeans, the Guess brand. So their collection is very vast. It's like, I learned really how like a certain aspect of art market works, which is like, people have big collections, chances are what they want to do is to like make it work for them. So they open an institution that's essentially a non-profit to tax write-off, essentially. I don't know if I wanted to like leave all of that in there. But anyways.
No, that's totally
it is
what it is.
Yeah, but what's cool about it though is that you see the personality of the people who collect the work. So the works that they collect is very like, man's collection.
Got you.
Some of it is very like some of it is very erotic, some of it's not, some of it is, very intellectual, and very like concerned with nature and how we exist in life and that kind of thing. Like some of it is just like, some low-key incellular behavior. Or like, some of it is, they had work by there's like works by like Catherine Opie, you got running on it. They had a Yo-Yo Clisamo space in there as well. So just like a polka dot room.
Yeah.
They had Ai Weiwei, they had Takashi Murakami's work in there as well. Glenn Ligon. It's a bunch of different people.
Yeah.
It's a wide range of works.
That must have been awesome.
Yeah, it was cool.
That must have been really awesome.
And you look at a place like the Broad, where they have an even more comprehensive collection of work, and they have more works that are maybe more on the, or maybe a bit more iconic. So they have a lot of works by Basquiat, Keith Haring. Yeah, so like, you know, Barbara Krug, a bunch of different people. But it's like, it's works that are a bit more on the side of like, you know, like Andy Warhol too, I think. Like, you know, works that are considered to be like canon of like contemporary works. Like, and they're a very massive collection.
Yeah.
And like what's on display is just like a fraction of it.
Right.
You know?
Right. Do you know how frequently they change the displays? Like on average? I've always thought of that, like when you get new work, even the National Gallery here in Jamaica, like I always wonder, and I've never asked, how frequently they change displays, or they don't.
Yeah, I mean it depends. Some spaces tend to change maybe like quarterly or like 6 months at a time. Just depending on, you know, the sense of the logic behind you know, showing the works. I know for the Broad, for example, they'll have a show up. They have a main collection upstairs that doesn't change that often.
Okay.
And then downstairs I have shows that either you pay to go and see that are exclusive or specifically curated for a specific time. So when I was there, they had the Soul of a Nation show, which is was focused around Black artists and various artists that between the 70s to now, or like the 80s to now. You know, it's just like a celebration of the works that were putting out during that time, and it's a very broad. You know, you've seen abstract work, you've seen textile, you've seen figurative painting. You know, it was a really cool. It was really cool to see, and like see in such like a high regarded space. Yeah,
I feel like that's so great. Like it's literally an education, you know, and even seeing how the businesses run, like how they organize, how they run their, even the private collections as opposed to the more public ones and stuff like that. I think that's so interesting. So I guess tell me a little bit more about what living in LA was like for you. Did you already have a community there, a family there when you went there, or did you kind of make that at the time?
Yeah, so I had a clan of cousins.
Okay.
And the LA clan of the family.
Okay.
That side, so it wasn't difficult to kind of like have somewhere to start. So I stayed with my aunt for a couple months, and then you know, from there, and then moved in with my good friends on the other side of town, and then we all found a place and lived together there.
Nice.
For the rest of the time.
Nice. And so we're starting to transition. So you said you weren't quite ready to come home yet, but you ended up coming home. Some things didn't work out, and then it was around about the time of the pandemic. So tell me more about the decision to come home. One of the things that we like to talk about is like, it's not necessarily a willing decision for some people, but it happens and we're here. So tell me more about that experience for you of like the transition from the US to Jamaica.
Yeah,